The night does not think, and yet it holds every thought you've ever had. In this space between the stars and the hush of your breath, there's something older than memory, something soft and vast, a mind behind all minds. Perhaps Yusuf felt it, a distant echo that feels strangely near. The all is mind, they say, and you are not separate, just one ripple in a sea of thought, the thinker and the thought, the dreamer and the dream, a quiet current shaping what you see from within. Let the air settle in your belly. Feel the body melt like wax in warmth. You don't have to do anything. There is nowhere to go. The bed holds you just as the all holds everything. The sound of your own breathing may become something else now, a tide pulling you gently inside. Chapter 1: The Principle of Mentalism. As you begin to settle into this moment, allowing yourself to be exactly where you are, perhaps noticing how the quietness of this space already begins to welcome you. The night does not think, and yet it holds every thought you've ever had. In this space between the stars and the hush of your breath, there's something older than memory, something soft and vast, a mind behind all minds. Feel how your body meets the surface beneath you, the weight of your limbs growing heavier with each passing moment, as if gravity itself were a gentle hand, pressing you deeper into comfort. Perhaps you've felt it before, a distant echo that feels strangely near, a knowing that arrives before words can shape it, an understanding that rests just beyond the reach of ordinary thought. The ancient philosophers spoke of this, the first and most fundamental principle. The all is mind, and you are not separate from it, just one ripple in a sea of thought, the thinker and the thought, the dreamer and the dream. Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling the gentle rise and the peaceful fall as your body remembers how to breathe without effort. As you rest here, suspended between wakefulness and dreams, notice how the boundaries begin to soften. The edge between what is you and what is not you growing less distinct. The separation between inner and outer becoming more transparent with each breath. The bed holds you just as the all holds everything. The sound of your own breathing may become something else now, a tide pulling you gently inside. Feel the weight of your shoulders releasing, your spine finding its natural curve, your jaw softening as if every part of you is remembering how to let go. In this twilight state of consciousness, you might begin to sense it more clearly, a quiet current shaping what you see from within, the subtle intelligence that flows through all things, including you, not distant or separate, but immediate and intimate, not something to reach for, but something you already are. Let this moment widen around you, creating space for a deeper understanding to emerge. Exploring the principle, the first whispered wisdom of the Kybalion tells us that the universe is not what it appears to be, not a collection of solid objects and empty spaces, but a vast mental creation, a thought in the mind of what the ancients called the All, and every apparent thing within it, every star, every mountain, every drop of rain, every human heart is part of this infinite mental creation. Exhale as if softening into the bed beneath you, allowing this ancient understanding to settle not just in your mind, but in your entire being. This principle doesn't ask you to reject what your senses tell you, only to recognize that perception itself is an act of mind, that what appears solid is mostly empty space, that what seems separate is profoundly connected, that what feels fixed and unchangeable is actually in constant flux. Feel the breath anchor you in this present moment as your awareness gently expands beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. And as you settle more deeply, you might notice how a thought becomes a world, how moods become weather, how a single image paints a future. The mind is not confined to the skull. It extends through every cell of your body. It reaches into the space around you. It connects with minds beyond your own in ways you may not consciously perceive. What you think of as your mind is like a single wave on the surface of a vast ocean, distinct in its expression, yet inseparable from the whole. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how it nourishes not just your lungs, but every cell, every tissue, every hidden corner of your physical form. The ancient Hermetic teachers understood what modern science is only beginning to confirm, that observer and observed are not separate, that attention itself shapes experience, that consciousness is not just a witness to reality, but a participant in its unfolding. This principle doesn't ask you to control, only to notice, to sense how reality shifts just a little. When the inner current turns, feel how your body responds to these words, perhaps with subtle sensations of opening or release, perhaps with gentle waves of relaxation moving through tissues and tensions. What if your mind was not in your body, but your body resting inside the mind? What would that change? This first principle of mental alchemy offers not just a philosophical perspective, but a practical invitation, an invitation to recognize the creative power of your own consciousness, not as something to exploit or control, but as something to awaken to with wonder and responsibility. Exhale as if releasing any resistance to this understanding, any doubt or skepticism that might prevent you from exploring it fully. When the ancient texts say the all is mind, the universe is mental, they're not suggesting that physical reality doesn't exist. Rather, they're pointing to the primacy of consciousness, that mind is the foundation from which matter emerges, not the other way around. That thought precedes form, that imagination precedes manifestation. You might wonder if thoughts can be chosen like stones on a shoreline, which ones you keep, which ones drift away. Let this moment widen even further, as if the space around you were expanding to hold a deeper dimension of understanding. In the practice of mental alchemy, you begin to recognize yourself not just as a physical being having occasional thoughts, but as a thinking being expressing through a physical form, not as a solid entity moving through time and space, but as a field of consciousness creating its experience of time and space from within. The mind is like the projector in a theater, casting images onto the screen of experience. Most people focus exclusively on the screen and on what appears. The alchemist learns to turn and face the projector to become aware of awareness itself, to recognize the source from which all appearances emerge. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition, this remembering of what you've always known at some level. As this understanding deepens, you might begin to notice how your thoughts are constantly creating your experience, not occasionally or partially, but continuously and completely. How your beliefs shape what you perceive, how your expectations influence what manifests, how your attention determines what becomes real for you. Perhaps now you feel a thought loosening, softening, losing its edges in the stillness. That's all right. You don't need to hold on. Let the air settle in your belly once more, feeling the gentle rhythm of your breathing becoming even more natural, even more effortless. This principle of mentalism has profound implications for your emotional life. For if all experience arises in mind, then emotions are not simply reactions to external events, but creative expressions of consciousness, not just effects, but causes, not just responses, but powers. When emotions arise, whether pleasant or painful, you can begin to relate to them differently, not as absolute realities that define you, but as temporary weather patterns moving through the sky of your awareness, not as who you are, but as experiences you're having in this moment. Exhale, as if softening any emotional tension you might be carrying, allowing feelings to flow like water rather than freeze like ice. Notice how moods become weather, how a cloud of thought can bring emotional rain, how a shift in perception can clear the inner sky. This doesn't mean denying or suppressing emotions. Quite the opposite. It means giving them space to be felt fully while recognizing their fluid, changing nature. It means neither identifying completely with them nor rejecting them, but allowing them to move through the open field of your awareness. Feel the weight of your body growing even heavier now, as if gravity were gently increasing, pressing you deeper into relaxation. Perhaps you've noticed how a single thought can transform your entire emotional landscape, how remembering something painful can instantly change a good day into a difficult one, or how a moment of gratitude can suddenly illuminate what was previously dark. This is the principle of mentalism at work in your daily experience. Let this moment widen into a gentle exploration, a curious witnessing of how thoughts and emotions dance together in your awareness. What if your emotional states were not fixed reactions to an external world, but creative expressions of your inner life? What if feelings were not things that happen to you, but energies that flow through you? Energies you can learn to channel and direct, like a river finding its way to the sea. Feel the breath anchor you in this possibility, this potential for emotional fluidity and freedom. The ancient alchemists knew that transformation begins not with changing outer circumstances, but with shifting inner awareness. That healing occurs not by forcing emotions to be different, but by creating a spacious, compassionate container in which they can move and change naturally. That freedom comes not from controlling what arises, but from changing how you relate to what arises. You might find that emotions soften when witnessed with kindness, that thoughts lose their grip when observed with curiosity, that patterns shift when met with gentle awareness rather than resistance. Exhale as if releasing any emotional patterns that no longer serve you, any habitual reactions that limit your freedom. This principle reminds us that even the most difficult emotional states are not permanent fixtures, but temporary visitors, that even deep-seated patterns are not carved in stone, but written in sand, capable of being reshaped with each new tide of awareness, that even old wounds are not fixed realities, but fluid memories that can be reinterpreted and released. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath brings fresh energy, fresh possibility, fresh perspective. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness begins to take on a dreamlike quality, floating between thoughts like clouds in a vast sky. The principle of mentalism reveals itself most clearly in the realm of dreams, for in dreams, the mind's creative power becomes undeniable. Entire worlds emerge from consciousness alone, landscapes, characters, narratives, emotions, all arising not from external stimuli, but from the dreaming mind itself. Feel how your body grows even heavier, as if it were slowly dissolving into the surface beneath you, as your consciousness begins to enter this twilight realm between waking and dreaming. In dreams, you directly experience the truth that the all is mind, that reality is mental, that consciousness creates worlds, and yet this same creative process is occurring right now in your waking experience, just in a more structured, consistent way, bound by collective agreements about the nature of physical reality. The dreamer and the dream, the thinker and the thought, not two separate things, but one reality expressing itself. Let this moment widen into dream space, where the rules of ordinary perception begin to soften and dissolve. What if your waking life were more like a dream than you realize? What if the solid world you perceive were actually as fluid and responsive to consciousness as a dreamscape? What if the boundaries between self and other, inner and outer, subject and object, were actually as permeable and transparent as they become in dreams? Exhale as if releasing any rigid definitions of reality, any fixed boundaries between states of consciousness. The practice of mental alchemy begins with recognizing that the same principles operate in both waking and dreaming states, that consciousness is always the foundation, that thought always precedes form, that imagination always shapes manifestation, whether you're aware of it or not. Feel the breath anchor you in this borderland between worlds, this liminal space where transformation becomes possible. Perhaps you've noticed how in dreams your identity can shift and change, how you can be both yourself and someone else simultaneously, how you can observe yourself from outside while also experiencing from within, how you can be both the creator of the dream and a character within it. The same fluidity of identity exists more subtly in your waking experience. You are not a fixed, solid entity, but a dynamic, flowing process. Not a noun, but a verb. Not a thing, but an event. Not a product, but a production. Consciousness continuously creating itself anew in each moment. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath brings you deeper into this understanding, this recognition of your fluid, creative nature. As you drift between waking and dreaming, you might begin to sense how thin the veil really is, how consciousness moves seamlessly between states, how identity expands and contracts like breathing, how reality responds to the subtlest shifts in perception. The ancient Hermetic teachings remind us that what we call normal waking consciousness is just one state among many, that what we call consensus reality is just one dream among many Midas, a collective dream we've agreed to share, that what we call self is just one expression among many of the infinite creative consciousness that is our true nature. Feel how your awareness expands to include this possibility, this vaster understanding of who and what you really are. As you continue to drift deeper into this restful state, feeling your entire being growing heavier and more peaceful with each breath, allow all these understandings to settle, not as concepts to be remembered, but as recognitions to be absorbed. The principle of mentalism is not a belief to adopt, but a reality to experience. Not a philosophy to study, but a dimension to explore, not an idea to understand, but a truth to embody. And in this twilight state, between waking and sleeping, between thinking and dreaming, you may find it easier to sense its presence directly. Let the air settle in your belly one final time, feeling the perfect rhythm of your breathing. As sleep approaches on silent feet, remember that even in dreams, this principle continues its gentle work. The mind creating worlds within worlds, experiences within experiences, all arising from the infinite creative potential that you are. Exhale, as if softening any remaining tension, any last holding, any subtle resistance to complete rest. What if your mind was not in your body, but your body resting inside the mind? What would that change? Feel the breath anchor you in this perfect stillness, this peaceful surrender to the wisdom that flows through all things. Let thoughts drift now if they arise. Let images form if they appear. Let emotions flow if they emerge. All are welcome guests in the vastness of your awareness. All are expressions of the same creative intelligence that dreams the stars. Let this moment widen into timelessness as the boundaries between waking and sleeping, between self and other, between inner and outer, continue to dissolve. Somewhere beyond this understanding, another whisper awaits. But for now, allow yourself to float in this timeless wisdom, the knowing that mind shapes matter, that thought precedes form, that consciousness creates reality. And as you drift deeper still, the first principle holds you in its gentle embrace, preparing you for the next revelation that awaits in the darkness behind your eyelids. Chapter 2. The Principle of Correspondence. As you continue this journey into ancient wisdom, feeling yourself becoming ever more receptive, the second principle emerges like a soft echo resonating through layers of consciousness. Some things are too large to see until they are small enough to feel. The stars trace your veins, and your thoughts, they echo in the deep mechanics of the sky. Allow your awareness to settle more deeply into your body now, feeling how each point of contact with the surface beneath you creates a perfect impression, a mirror image of pressure and support. What is above is like what is below, and what is within is mirrored without. You don't have to believe it. You only have to notice the way patterns repeat, the way the smallest gesture ripples outward, and the vastest cosmos whispers something back. Feel the gentle weight of your eyelids now, how they naturally draw downward, mirroring the pull of gravity on everything in this world. This principle of correspondence tells us that there is a harmony between planes of existence, that the patterns that govern the movement of planets also orchestrate the dance of atoms, that the rhythms that pulse through your body echo the ancient rhythms of the tides, the seasons, the cosmic breath itself. Let the air settle in your belly, feeling how this simple act of breathing mirrors countless other cycles of receiving and releasing throughout the natural world. Your breath mirrors the tides, drawing in, flowing out. The moon pulls the ocean, and your dreams, too, exhale as if releasing a message to the universe, knowing that what flows from you participates in a vast exchange of energy and information. Perhaps you've glimpsed it before, but how your own life seems to reflect larger patterns, how your personal story sometimes feels like an echo of ancient myths, how coincidences align like stars forming constellations of meaning. These are not accidents or illusions, but glimpses of correspondence, the secret symmetry that connects all levels of existence. Feel the breath anchor you in this present moment while simultaneously connecting you to all breathing beings across time and space. As you rest here, suspended between wakefulness and dreams, you might begin to sense how this principle has always been operating in your life, not as an abstract concept, but as a living reality that shapes your experience from the inside out and the outside in. A continuous conversation between realms that only seem separate to the untrained eye. Let this moment widen around you, expanding to include both the vast and the minute, the cosmic and the intimate, all participating in the same grand pattern. The whispers of philosophers across time reveal a profound truth: as above, so below, as below, so above. This ancient axiom contains a universe of meaning within a few simple words. It tells us that the macrocosm and the microcosm are reflections of each other, that studying one reveals the secrets of the other, that nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected through resonant patterns that repeat at every scale. Feel the weight of your body sinking more deeply into support, as if the very earth were cradling you, holding you in perfect balance, just as gravity holds the planets in their orbits. Your body itself is a living demonstration of this principle. Each cell contains the complete DNA blueprint for your entire being. Your circulatory system branches like rivers, like lightning, like cosmic filaments connecting galaxies. Your neural pathways mirror the mycelial networks beneath the forest floor. Your heartbeat echoes the primordial pulse that has been sounding since the first stars were born. Let the air fill the spaces within you, effortlessly, naturally, as your lungs expand and contract in their ancient wisdom, participating in the greater rhythm of all living things. Consider how a single drop of water contains the same molecular structure as the entire ocean, how a tiny seed holds the pattern for an entire tree, how a fragment of hologram contains the whole image in miniature. These are not merely poetic metaphors, but expressions of the correspondence that structures all reality. Exhale as if sending your breath to join the winds that circle the planet, that have carried the exhalations of all beings who have ever lived. The spiral in the shell is the spiral in your sleeping spine. The branching of trees is the branching in your lungs. The rhythm of waves is the rhythm of your pulse. Your inner world is a prism. The stars, remember. Feel how your body contains these sacred geometries, these universal patterns, these cosmic signatures written in flesh and bone and breath. You might begin to notice now how your own life contains these echoes of correspondence. The patterns that appear in one area of your experience often reappear in others. The challenges you face in relationships might mirror internal conflicts. The obstacles you encounter in the outer world might reflect inner resistances. The beauty you perceive around you might correspond to qualities awakening within. Let this moment widen further as your awareness expands to include both the personal and the universal dimensions of your experience. This principle reveals that your inner landscape and outer reality are not separate domains, but reflective surfaces constantly mirroring each other. Your thoughts create subtle vibrations that ripple outward, eventually returning as experiences. Your emotions generate fields that interact with the world around you, attracting resonant circumstances and relationships. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition, this remembering of your place in the great web of correspondence. The ancient Hermetic teaching that the universe is mental works hand in hand with this principle of correspondence. For if all is mind, then the patterns in your consciousness naturally reflect in the world of form, not instantly like magic, but gradually and inevitably, like how water shapes stone, not through force, but through patient persistence. Exhale as if releasing any sense of separation between inner and outer, any artificial boundary between self and world. Consider how a single thought can ripple outward to affect your entire being, how a moment of peace in your mind can create harmony in your body, how internal balance might manifest as external grace. These are not coincidences, but expressions of correspondence. The ancients understood that healing in one realm could initiate healing in all realms, that harmony established within would eventually reflect without. That knowledge of the self was indeed knowledge of the universe. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath nourishes not just your physical form, but your emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions as well. What if every outer experience was offering you information about your inner state? What if the world around you was constantly providing feedback, showing you the manifestations of your conscious and unconscious patterns, not as judgment or punishment, but as a perfect mirror, helping you see what might otherwise remain hidden? Feel the weight of your body growing heavier as your awareness grows lighter, experiencing both density and spaciousness simultaneously. Let this moment widen into practical understanding as we explore how this principle operates in the laboratory of daily life. The principle of correspondence offers profound guidance for navigating your human journey. For if inner states manifest as outer experiences, then the most direct path to changing your reality is through shifting your internal landscape, not through controlling or manipulating external circumstances, but through aligning your consciousness with what you wish to experience. Exhale, as if softening any resistance to this understanding, any doubt or skepticism that might prevent you from exploring it fully. Perhaps you've already witnessed this correspondence in action. How a shift in your attitude sometimes mysteriously transforms a challenging situation. How holding a clear intention often attracts unexpected support and opportunities. How working on yourself somehow improves your relationships, even without direct intervention. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition of your creative role in shaping experience. In this principle lies a profound invitation to coherence. When you align your thoughts with your words with your actions with your deepest values, you create a harmony that resonates through all levels of your existence. This alignment generates a power that can transform circumstances that once seemed immovable. Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling the gentle expansion and contraction, the receiving and releasing that mirrors the basic pattern of all life processes. You might notice how your relationships often reflect aspects of yourself, both those you recognize and those you might prefer not to see. How the qualities that most irritate you in others are frequently the same ones you've disowned or repressed within yourself. How the traits you admire most in others are qualities waiting to be more fully expressed through you. Exhale as if releasing any judgment about these reflections, any resistance to seeing yourself in the mirror of others. The ancient alchemists knew that true transformation begins within, that attempting to change outer circumstances without addressing their inner correspondences is like trying to fix a problem in your reflection by adjusting the mirror. That sustainable change happens when inner and outer realms align in a new pattern of harmony. Feel how your body responds to this wisdom, perhaps with subtle sensations of recognition or release. What might shift in your daily experience if you remembered that you are not merely responding to a fixed external reality, but participating in a dynamic conversation between inner and outer dimensions, that each small choice, each subtle shift in perception, each quiet moment of alignment ripples outward to affect the whole. Let this moment widen into contemplation as you consider how this principle might illuminate your current life circumstances. In practical terms, the law of correspondence invites you to look for the inner correspondences to outer conditions, what within you resonates with what you're experiencing. Recognize that changing external circumstances begins with shifting internal patterns, like adjusting the projector rather than trying to change the images on the screen. Understand that working on yourself is not separate from improving your world. They are two aspects of the same process, mirrors reflecting each other. Feel the breath anchor you in this empowered perspective, this recognition of your role as both creator and receiver of experience. This principle soothes the urge for control by offering something more profound, alignment, rather than struggling to force the outer world to conform to your wishes. You can bring your inner world into harmony with the qualities you wish to experience. The outer will follow, not through magic or wishful thinking, but through the natural law of correspondence. Exhale as if releasing any need to control outcomes, any anxiety about how or when changes will manifest. Perhaps you're beginning to sense how this principle has always been operating in your life, how changes made in your inner landscape have mysteriously transformed your outer circumstances, how attending to one relationship has healed many others, how shifting one perception has rearranged entire patterns of experience. Let the air settle deeply in your body now, as this understanding settles deeply in your awareness. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your consciousness begins to take on a more fluid, dreamlike quality. The boundaries between sleeping and waking, between imagination and reality, between memory and anticipation, all these grow more transparent as you rest in this twilight state. And in this liminal space, the principle of correspondence reveals itself in more subtle, mysterious ways. Feel how your body grows even heavier, as if gradually merging with the earth beneath you, while your awareness grows lighter, more expansive. What is within is mirrored without. The sky might be dreaming of you, just as you dream of it. Your thoughts echo in the deep mechanics of the stars, just as cosmic forces pulse through your veins. Exhale as if sending your essence outward to mingle with the greater reality, while simultaneously drawing the essence of the universe deeper within. Dreams themselves are expressions of correspondence, inner landscapes that reflect both personal patterns and universal archetypes. In dreams, the mind creates worlds that mirror waking concerns, unresolved emotions, unacknowledged truths. Yet dreams also connect us to something larger, collective memories, ancestral wisdom, potential futures waiting to emerge. Let this moment widen into dream space, where correspondences become more fluid, more immediate, more transparent. The way patterns repeat, the way the smallest gesture ripples outward, and the vastest cosmos whispers something back. Perhaps you're remembering now that the spiral in the shell is the spiral in your sleeping spine, that dreams may be rehearsals of realities, that the sky might be dreaming of you. Feel the breath anchor you in this borderland between worlds, this threshold where inner and outer meet and merge. And so you begin to wonder what within you reflects the moon. What soft feeling has its equal somewhere far away? Is there a thought in your chest but the forest understands. You don't have to answer. Just let the air settle, as if the answer is already moving through your breath. Let your fingers fall open, like leaves, remembering wind. Exhale as if releasing any need to categorize or analyze these correspondences, simply allowing them to reveal themselves in their own perfect timing. What if dreams were not merely productions of your mind, but conversations with other dimensions of reality? What if synchronicities were not just coincidences, but glimpses of the underlying unity of all things? What if your intuitions were not merely unconscious processing, but moments of direct correspondence with a wisdom beyond ordinary knowing? Feel how your body contains its own deep knowing, its own perfect correspondence with the greater intelligence of life. You might find that stillness is a form of listening, and that in listening you align. This is how reality shifts, not in force, but in fidelity, not in effort, but in resonance. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how this simple act creates subtle alignments throughout your entire being. As you continue to drift peacefully in this space of deep relaxation, allow all these understandings to integrate naturally without effort or strain. The principle of correspondence offers not just knowledge, but a way of perceiving that transforms everything it touches. When you begin to recognize the reflections between realms, the separations dissolve, inner and outer, above and below, spirit and matter. All these apparent divisions reveal themselves as different expressions of a unified reality. Exhale, as if softening any remaining boundaries between yourself and the world around you, any sense of isolation or disconnection. Feel your weight as the earth feels its orbit, not rushing, just turning. Let this moment widen into pure presence as time seems to slow, as space seems to open, as awareness embraces both the particular and the infinite. The ancient texts speak of how the wise can solve every problem through understanding correspondence, not through controlling or manipulating, but through recognizing patterns, aligning energies, and allowing natural harmonies to emerge, like tuning an instrument rather than forcing a note, like finding the current rather than fighting against it. Feel the breath anchor you in this effortless approach to life, this path of alignment rather than struggle. As sleep draws closer with each breath, consider what might shift if you carried this understanding with you into your waking hours. How might you relate differently to challenges if you saw them as reflections rather than obstacles? How might you approach relationships if you recognize them as mirrors rather than separate entities? How might you experience yourself if you sensed your correspondence with all of existence? Let the air settle in your body one final time, feeling the perfect rhythm that connects your breathing to all pulsations throughout the cosmos. The stars trace your veins, and your thoughts, they echo in the deep mechanics of the sky, not as metaphor, but as reality, not as belief, but as experience, not as concept, but as perception. Exhale as if releasing into complete trust, complete surrender to the perfect patterns that are always unfolding within and around you. Somewhere beyond this harmonious understanding, another whisper awaits. But for now, rest in this perfect correspondence between all things, between all parts of yourself, between waking and dreaming. Feel how your awareness begins to vibrate in subtle harmony with deeper frequencies, as if each atom in your body were beginning to hum in resonance with a cosmic song. And as consciousness continues its gentle surrender to sleep, the second principle continues its quiet work, tuning each aspect of your being to resonate with every other, creating a symphony of perfect harmony. Chapter 3: The Breath of All Things. As you drift deeper into this restful journey, allowing each moment to unfold with perfect timing, a third wisdom approaches like a gentle humming in the distance. Nothing rests, not truly. Even in silence, there is movement. Even in stone, a secret hum. Notice how even in stillness, subtle movements continue within your body. The quiet pulsing of your heart, the almost imperceptible rhythm of your breathing. All things vibrate in their own hidden tempo. And you are no different. A melody in skin, a pulse that dreams, a song of shifting waves that sometimes sounds like a name and sometimes like a sigh. Feel the warmth flowing through your limbs now, a subtle current of energy moving through pathways unseen as your body continues its symphony of microscopic movements. The ancient sages observed a truth that modern science now confirms. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, from the seemingly solid mountain to the elusive thought. All things exist in perpetual motion, in constant dance, in endless vibration. Let the air settle in the deepest parts of your lungs, feeling how this gentle movement connects you to the rhythm of all living things. You are the still point in a moving wave. You are the echo of a sacred breath stretched into time. You are not static, not fixed, but flowing, always flowing, even in your deepest rest. Exhale as if releasing a note into the cosmic symphony, allowing your unique vibration to join the universal chorus. Perhaps you've felt it before, those moments when everything seems to hum with a hidden life, when the silence between thoughts reveals itself as vibrant rather than empty, when the space between heartbeats feels charged with potential, when the pause between breaths contains a universe of subtle movement. Feel the breath anchor you in this awareness of perpetual motion, this recognition that stillness itself is merely movement too fine to perceive. As you rest here, suspended between wakefulness and dreams, you might begin to sense it more directly. Iration is the language of being, the hum behind every moment, not as concept or theory, but as lived experience, not as something outside yourself, but as the very essence of what you are. Let this moment widen around you, expanding to include the countless vibrations moving through you and beyond you, a vast orchestration of frequencies creating the symphony of existence. What moves cannot be broken. The principle of vibration reveals that differences between manifestations of matter, energy, mind, and even spirit result merely from varying rates of vibration. Like notes on a cosmic instrument, each reality simply vibrates at its own unique frequency. Feel how your body responds to this truth, perhaps with subtle sensations of tingling or pulsing, perhaps with a deeper recognition that precedes words. Consider your physical form might have, appearing solid and stable to ordinary perception, yet composed of atoms in constant motion, electrons orbiting nuclei at incredible speeds, molecules vibrating against each other, cells pulsating with life, blood flowing in rhythmic circuits, nerves firing in patterned sequences. Even your bones, seemingly so solid, are in constant process of breaking down and rebuilding. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath initiates waves of movement throughout your entire being. The densest stone and the lightest thought are not separate realities, but neighbors on a vast spectrum. The anger that feels so heavy and the joy that feels so light are simply different vibrations of the same emotional energy, transformable, transmutable through the alchemy of consciousness. Exhale, as if releasing any resistance to this fluid nature of reality, any attachment to solidity or permanence that might limit your experience. You might begin to sense how emotions that once seemed solid and unchangeable are actually fluid states of vibration. How a feeling of heaviness can gradually shift, how a mood can transform, not through force or resistance, but through subtle adjustments in your inner tuning. Feel the weight of your body growing heavier now, even as your awareness grows lighter, experiencing both density and spaciousness simultaneously. Even your thoughts vibrate at their own frequencies. Some pulse with rapid, anxious energy. Others flow with smooth, coherent rhythms. Some fragment like static. Others harmonize like melody. And these mental vibrations influence not just your emotional state, but your physical body, your energy field, your relationship with the world around you. Let this moment widen into deeper recognition as you sense how thought, feeling, and physical sensation all participate in the same vibrational reality. Vibration is not just a property of things, it is the very nature of existence itself. Nothing truly exists in a fixed, stable state. Everything pulses, oscillates, moves between poles in rhythmic cycles, from the electrons spinning in atoms to the planets orbiting stars to the galaxies spiraling through space. All participate in the great cosmic dance of vibration. Feel the breath anchor you in this dance, this continuous movement that is not separate from stillness but includes it, like the eye of a hurricane. Consider sound waves of pressure moving through air, reaching your ear as vibration, translated by your brain into music, voice, noise, meaning. Consider light, electromagnetic waves traveling through space, received by your eyes as vibration, interpreted as color, form, beauty, information. Consider touch, pressure, oscillations against skin, transmitted through nerves as vibration, experienced as texture, temperature, pleasure, pain. Exhale, as if sending ripples through the field of your awareness, watching them expand outward in concentric circles of influence. The mystics knew that mastery of vibration was mastery of reality itself. By consciously shifting your own frequency, you naturally attract experiences that match your vibration, like calling to like, resonance finding resonance, harmony seeking harmony. Let the air settle in your body deeply now, feeling how it nourishes every cell, every tissue, every hidden corner of your physical form. And perhaps you've noticed how certain environments affect your vibration, how some places feel heavy, draining, discordant, how others feel light, energizing, harmonious, how some people's presence seems to elevate your frequency while others seem to dampen it. These are not merely psychological preferences, but responses to actual vibrational influences. Feel how your body naturally seeks resonance with its surroundings, how it attunes itself to the dominant frequencies in its environment. What if the fear of instability, the deep human need for solid ground, fixed identity, unchanging truth, were based on a misunderstanding? What if movement, change, and vibration were not threats to your existence, but the very essence of it? What if what moves cannot be broken in the way that what is rigid can? Let this moment widen into a gentle revelation, a recognition that flow offers more security than fixity ever could. You do not need to be still. You only need to be in rhythm. You do not need to be certain. You only need to be in tune. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be in harmony with your own nature. Feel the breath anchor you in this understanding, this invitation to embrace your vibrational essence. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness becomes more fluid, more receptive. Allow yourself to experience directly. You are a frequency, not just a physical body that vibrates, but vibration itself that has taken form. Not just a collection of oscillating particles, but a unique pattern of resonance expressing through matter. Not just a being that experiences vibration, but vibration that has become aware of itself. Exhale as if releasing any limited self-definitions, any constricted sense of who and what you are. Your emotions are the music your body plays to itself, each feeling a different note in your personal symphony. Each mood a different key, a different tempo, a different tone. Not random noise, but meaningful expression. Not problems to be solved, but messages to be received. Feel the breath anchor you in this emotional awareness, this recognition of feelings as vibrational information rather than obstacles. You might begin to notice how your mood affects your voice, how joy makes your words lift and dance, how sadness gives them weight and depth, how anger makes them sharp and percussive, how love makes them flow like warm honey. Your voice literally vibrates at different frequencies depending on your emotional state. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how it carries the frequency of your current state, amplifying some qualities, dampening others. And if your voice changes with your emotional frequency, consider how your entire being broadcasts that same vibration into the world around you, not just through words and actions, but through the subtle energy field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form, a field that others sense and respond to, often unconsciously. Exhale, as if allowing your authentic frequency to emanate from you without effort or pretense. Perhaps you've noticed how rooms feel different when certain people enter them, how some presence brings tension while others bring ease, how some encounters leave you feeling drained while others leave you energized. This is not merely personality or behavior, but vibrational influence, the resonance that each being naturally creates in their surroundings. Feel how your awareness expands to include this vibrational dimension of interaction, this subtle yet powerful level of communication that precedes and underlies words. The world is a song you are already singing, not separate from you, but responsive to your frequency, not fixed in its nature, but fluid, adaptable, resonant, not something to control, but something to harmonize with. Let this moment widen into curious exploration as you sense what frequency you might be broadcasting right now. What quality of vibration are you currently emanating? Is it open or constricted, flowing or blocked, coherent or scattered, light or dense? There is no right or wrong frequency, only awareness of what is and the possibility of gentle attunement if desired. Feel the breath anchor you in this non-judgmental awareness, this compassionate witnessing of your own vibrational state. The ancient alchemists practiced raising their vibration through meditation, through sound, through movement, through intention, not to escape reality, but to access different dimensions of it, to experience the same world from a higher perspective. Exhale as if releasing any heaviness, any density that might be lowering your frequency without serving any useful purpose. What might change in your daily experience if you remembered that you are not fixed in any state, but always capable of shifting your vibration? That emotions are not solid things, but flowing energies that respond to your attention, that even the densest challenge contains the potential for transformation. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath offers an opportunity to adjust your frequency, to tune your instrument, to align your vibration with your deepest intentions. As your consciousness continues to soften and expand, drifting between wakefulness and dreams, allow yourself to explore the dance between harmony and dissonance. Life is not about eliminating all dissonance and maintaining perfect harmony at all times. Just as music requires both consonance and dissonance to create depth and movement, your life requires both resonant and challenging frequencies to create richness and growth. Feel the breath anchor you in this balanced understanding, this perspective that embraces the full spectrum of vibrational experience. Consider how a tuning fork works. When struck, it vibrates at a specific frequency. When placed near another object capable of resonating at that same frequency, the second object begins to vibrate in sympathy without being touched, without being forced. This is the principle of resonance at work. Exhale as if releasing any need to force change in yourself or others, trusting instead in the natural power of resonance. Similarly, when you consistently hold a certain frequency through thought, feeling, intention, action, you naturally activate that same frequency in your surroundings. not through effort or control, but through the simple physics of vibration, like calls to like. Resonance seeks resonance. Harmony attracts harmony. Let this moment widen into deeper trust, a recognition that you need not struggle to change your reality, only to adjust your frequency. Even silence vibrates, like stars singing in their sleep. The spaces between your thoughts hum with potential. The pauses between your breaths pulse with life. Nothing is truly still, and nothing is truly empty. Feel how your body contains its own wisdom of vibration, naturally finding its optimal frequency when allowed to settle into its own rhythm. The ancient texts speak of how the wise can neutralize any negative vibration, not by fighting against it, but by consciously moving up the scale toward its positive counterpart, like adjusting a dial rather than flipping a switch, like transforming a minor chord into a major one, like watching dawn emerge from darkness. Exhale as if releasing any resistance to this alchemical approach, any attachment to struggle as the path to transformation. Consider the songbird. It doesn't strain to produce its melody. It doesn't force the notes from its throat. It simply allows its natural vibration to express through sound. Its song emerges not from effort, but from essence, the pure expression of its being in that moment. Feel the breath anchor you in this effortless approach to vibrational mastery, this path of allowing rather than forcing. What if true change comes not from fixing what seems broken, but from tuning what seems discordant, not from eliminating parts of yourself, but from bringing them into harmony with the whole, not from rejecting certain frequencies, but from understanding their purpose in the greater composition? Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath naturally tunes your system without any conscious effort on your part. Dissonance itself has purpose. In music, it creates tension that seeks resolution, movement that seeks completion. In life, it reveals where alignment is needed, where attention is required, where growth is possible. Without dissonance, there would be no evolution, no transformation, no alchemy. Exhale as if embracing even the challenging frequencies in your life, recognizing their role in your unique symphony. Perhaps you're beginning to sense that surrender is not about giving up, but about giving in to the natural flow of vibration, not about abandoning your power, but about aligning it with greater currents, not about losing yourself, but about finding your true resonance. Feel how your body responds to this invitation to surrender, perhaps with sensations of release, relief, or deeper relaxation. As sleep draws closer with each breath, allow all these understandings about vibration to settle, not as concepts to remember, but as recognitions to embody. The universe itself began with a sound, a vibration, a word spoken into the void, and that same creative power resides within you, in every thought you think, in every word you speak, in every feeling you cultivate. Let the air settle in your body one final time, feeling how your breathing has become the primary instrument of your vibration in this moment. As your consciousness begins its journey toward dreams, consider that sleep itself is not the absence of vibration, but a shift to different frequencies. not a cessation of life, but a transformation of it, not an ending, but a continuation on another scale. Exhale, as if surrendering completely to the natural rhythm that carries you toward rest, toward renewal, toward dreams. You are vibration made flesh. You are frequency expressing as form. You are rhythm remembering itself through breath. Feel the breath anchor you in this identity beyond names and stories, this essential nature that precedes and transcends all temporary states. What if you allowed yourself to simply hum with life, to vibrate in accordance with your deepest nature, to resonate with what calls to the authentic core of your being, not as something to achieve or become, but as something to remember and allow? Let this moment widen into timelessness as your awareness embraces both the continuous movement and the profound stillness that exists simultaneously within you. The principle of vibration reveals not just how reality works, but how transformation happens, not through force, but through resonance, not through control, but through attunement, not through rejection of what is, but through elevation of what could be. Exhale as if releasing into complete trust, complete surrender to the perfect vibration that knows exactly how to carry you towards sleep. Somewhere beyond this vibrational understanding, another principle waits to be revealed, one that speaks of the rhythmic movement between opposites, the continuous swing of the pendulum that governs all processes in nature and consciousness. Feel how your awareness begins to sense the gentle oscillation between polarities, the natural rhythm that moves between complementary states. And as sleep draws ever closer with each breath, the third principle continues its gentle influence, harmonizing your entire being to the perfect frequency for deep, restorative rest. Chapter 4: The Space Between Opposites. As your consciousness continues to soften and expand, floating between wakefulness and dreams, a fourth ancient wisdom emerges from the depths of understanding. Light and dark, hot and cold, stillness and storm. They seem separate, but only on the surface. If you follow them to their edges, they meet. They always meet. Notice the gentle rhythm of tension and release in your body right now, how certain areas feel heavy while others feel light, how some places hold tightness while others have already surrendered. The philosophers of old recognized a pattern woven through all existence. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites, like the two sides of a single coin, like the crest and trough of a single wave, like the inhale and exhale of a single breath. Feel how your body naturally balances itself, the right side and left side, the front and back, each part finding perfect equilibrium as you rest more deeply. What is cold but less warm? What is fear but love with a mask? Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling the natural expansion and contraction, how fullness inevitably leads to emptiness, which leads again to fullness in endless cycle. What seems opposite is often the same thing in different degrees, the same energy expressed at different points along a spectrum, the same reality viewed from different perspectives, not enemies in conflict, but partners in dance, not contradictions that cancel each other, but complements that create wholeness. Exhale, as if releasing any need to choose one side over another, any inner conflict that comes from believing opposites must be in battle. Polarity is not division, it is rhythm, not fragmentation, but the pulse of wholeness. Not a problem to solve, but a pattern to recognize. Feel the breath anchor you in this understanding, this recognition that opposition is not the same as separation. As you rest here, suspended between sleeping and waking, you might begin to sense how this principle has always been operating in your life, not as something to fight against or overcome, but as something to understand and harmonize with, not as a source of conflict, but as a source of movement, of balance, of the very dynamism that makes life possible. Let this moment widen around you, expanding to include all apparent contradictions, all seeming paradoxes, all complementary truths that make up the tapestry of existence. The beauty of opposites, this principle of polarity, reveals that apparent opposites are merely two extremes of the same thing, different degrees of the same quality, distant points on a single spectrum. Heat and cold, degrees of temperature, sharp and dull, degrees of edge, love and hate, degrees of affection. Feel how your awareness can hold these apparent opposites without strain, without needing to resolve them into a single truth. You are not torn between opposites. You are the space in which they meet, not forced to choose between conflicting realities, but free to witness how they dance together, how they define each other, how they create the very possibility of experience. Let the air settle deeply in your lungs now, feeling how each breath contains both receiving and releasing, both expansion and contraction. Consider joy and sorrow. So often we chase one and avoid the other, as if they were unrelated experiences. Yet look closely and you'll find they share the same stem, like petals of different color. Both arise from the same capacity for deep feeling. Both reflect the heart's ability to be touched by life. Both reveal the profound significance of your connections and values. Exhale, as if softening any resistance to this connection between pleasure and pain, any attempt to have one without the possibility of the other. Would joy have meaning without the knowledge of sorrow? Would pleasure be as sweet without the experience of pain? Would reunion be as precious without the reality of separation? These are not separate experiences, but aspects of the same continuum, dimensions of the same capacity for feeling. Feel the breath anchor you in this emotional wholeness, this recognition that your full humanity includes the entire spectrum. Polarity is the heartbeat of the universe. It moves through you, not against you. The cycle of day and night is not a conflict, but a rhythm. The alternation between work and rest is not a problem, but a necessity. The dance between certainty and doubt is not a failure, but a path to wisdom. Let this moment widen into deeper appreciation for the way opposites create meaning through contrast. Consider courage and fear. We often view one as positive and the other as negative, one as strength and the other as weakness. Yet courage cannot exist without fear. It is precisely the willingness to act despite fear that defines courage. They are not enemies, but partners in the same experience, opposite points on the same continuum of relationship to threat. Exhale, as if releasing any judgment about which emotions are acceptable and which are not, any inner division between the parts of yourself you embrace and the parts you reject. Every shadow is made from light. Darkness is not the opposite of illumination. It is simply where light is momentarily absent or obscured. The shadow proves the existence of the light, just as doubt proves the possibility of faith, just as questions prove the potential for answers. Feel how your body contains all these polarities within itself: heat and cold, tension and relaxation, movement and stillness, excitement and calm. The ancients understood that wisdom lies not in eliminating one pole in favor of another, but in learning to navigate the entire spectrum with awareness and balance, not in refusing to experience extremes, but in recognizing that they naturally flow into each other in an eternal cycle of transformation. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how your physical form naturally seeks balance without your conscious direction. Consider love and hate. Though they seem like absolute opposites, they actually share the same intensity, the same passion, the same capacity to focus attention completely on another being. They are not separate emotions, but transforms of the same energy, which is why love can sometimes turn to hate, and hate can sometimes turn to love in ways that would be impossible if they were truly unrelated. Exhale, as if releasing any fear of emotional complexity, any need to simplify the rich tapestry of human feeling into rigid categories of good and bad. What might shift in your relationship with life if you recognized that nothing exists in isolation, that every quality contains a seed of its opposite, that the most profound healing often happens at the meeting point between acceptance and change? Feel the breath anchor you in this more nuanced relationship with experience, this ability to hold seeming contradictions without needing to collapse them into a single truth. You are not the storm or the calm. You are the sky that holds them, not limited to any single point along the spectrum, but capable of encompassing the entire range, not defined by any momentary state, but witness to all states as they arise and pass away. Let this moment widen into a vast perspective where opposites no longer appear as conflicts, but as the very texture of existence itself. Neutrality and the middle path. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness grows more spacious, more inclusive, allow yourself to explore the middle state between polarities. The masters knew that freedom existed in the space between polarities. That wisdom arose not from clinging to one extreme, but from dancing between complementary forces. That power came from embracing both strength and flexibility, both assertion and receptivity, both structure and flow. Exhale, as if finding the perfect balance point, the still center from which you can witness all movement without being pulled into reactivity. Think of the scale, that weighs two objects. When perfectly balanced, it finds a point of stillness, of neutrality. This neutral point is not a rejection of either side, but a perfect harmony between them. Not an absence of the qualities being measured, but a precise equilibrium that honors both equally. Feel the breath anchor you in this middle path, this center point that contains all possibilities, this balance that transcends opposition. Your breath holds both tension and release, neither wrong, both sacred. The inhale naturally leads to the exhale. The expansion inevitably flows into contraction. This is not conflict, but completion. Not contradiction, but continuity. Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling this perfect rhythm that requires no effort, no control, no choosing of one phase over another. In the practice of mental alchemy, this principle offers profound liberation. For if hate is a lower vibration of the same energy as love, then transformation becomes possible through gradual shifts along the spectrum. If fear and courage share the same essence, then one can be transmuted into the other through the power of conscious intention. Exhale, as if releasing into this middle perspective, this witnessing awareness that can observe polarities without being trapped in either extreme. This neutral point between opposites is not detachment or indifference, not a withdrawal from life or a refusal to engage. Rather, it is the most engaged perspective possible, one that can see the whole picture, that can hold the full spectrum, that can respond with wisdom rather than reaction. Feel how your body naturally finds this balance point when allowed to rest deeply, neither collapsed nor rigid, neither tense nor limp, but optimally aligned. Consider the polarities that have shaped your experience, the successes and failures, the connections and solitudes, the certainties and doubts. Notice how each has contributed to who you are, how each has offered its own gift of learning, how each contains elements of its opposite. Let this moment widen into appreciation for the entire tapestry of your life, not just the threads you would have chosen, but the complete pattern that includes all contrasts. What might change in your approach to difficulty if you remembered that ease exists on the same continuum? What might shift in your experience of conflict if you recognized that harmony shares the same spectrum? What might transform in your relationship with yourself if you embraced both your light and shadow as necessary aspects of wholeness? Feel the breath anchor you in this more spacious relationship with your own humanity, this compassion that extends to all parts of yourself. The path of neutrality does not mean abandoning discernment or preferring confusion over clarity. Rather, it means recognizing that every truth is half of a larger one, that every perspective is partial. That wisdom involves holding multiple viewpoints simultaneously, seeing how each contains value and limitation. Exhale as if releasing any rigidity in your thinking, any tendency to collapse the rich complexity of life into simplistic judgments of right and wrong, good and bad. In this neutral space between extremes, you might discover a profound freedom, freedom from the constant pull between opposing forces, freedom from the exhausting battle between conflicting desires, freedom to respond creatively rather than react habitually to whatever life presents. Let the air settle deeply in your body now as this understanding settles deeply in your awareness. As you drift ever deeper into this state of restful awareness, perhaps noticing how your consciousness becomes increasingly fluid and receptive, allow yourself to explore the transformative power of polarity. The ancient texts speak of how the wise can neutralize any negative vibration, not by fighting against it, but by consciously moving up the scale toward its positive counterpart, like adjusting a dial rather than flipping a switch, like transforming a minor chord into a major one, like watching dawn emerge from darkness. Feel how your awareness can shift along any spectrum of experience, moving gradually from one quality toward its complement without resistance or strain. This is the alchemy of polarity, the art of transmutation. Not rejecting what is, but recognizing it as one point on a spectrum that can be traversed. Not fighting against unwanted states, but using them as starting points for movement toward their complementary opposites. Exhale as if releasing any attachment to current limitations, any belief that present conditions must determine future possibilities. Every truth is half of a larger one. Every perspective is a doorway to its opposite. Every fixed position contains the seed of its transformation. Let this moment widen into contemplation of how this principle might apply in your own life. Consider an emotion like anger. When viewed as isolated and absolute, it can feel overwhelming, destructive, something to be suppressed or indulged blindly. But when recognized as one point on a spectrum that includes assertiveness, passion, and protective energy, it becomes a messenger rather than an enemy, something to be understood and channeled rather than feared or rejected. Feel the breath anchor you in this more nuanced relationship with challenging emotions, this ability to see their connection to positive qualities and potentials. Or consider a quality like vulnerability, often feared as weakness, as exposure to harm, as something to be avoided. Yet when seen in relationship to its complementary qualities, authenticity, openness, capacity for connection, it reveals itself as strength of a different kind, not the strength of impenetrable walls, but the strength of courageous engagement with life. Exhale, as if softening any resistance to this paradoxical understanding, any need to categorize experiences as absolutely positive or negative. In the practice of mental alchemy, this transmutation of polarities becomes a powerful tool for transformation. By consciously focusing on the positive counterpart of any challenging state, peace instead of anxiety, confidence instead of doubt, compassion instead of judgment, you gradually shift your vibration toward that complementary quality. Feel how your body responds to this possibility, perhaps with subtle sensations of opening, lightening, or release. This is not about denying your experience or engaging in wishful thinking. Rather, it is about recognizing the spectrum nature of all qualities and consciously choosing to move along that spectrum toward what serves your highest good, not through force or pretense, but through gentle, persistent reorientation of awareness. Let the air settle in your body now. feeling how each breath naturally supports this process of alchemical transformation. What if the parts of yourself that seem most troubling were actually holding the potential for their own transformation? What if your deepest wounds contained the seeds of your greatest strengths? What if your most persistent challenges were invitations to develop precisely the qualities needed for your evolution? Feel the breath anchor you in this perspective of possibility, this recognition of the transformative potential hidden within every difficulty. You are not permanently defined by any momentary state. You are not limited to any single point on any spectrum. You are the consciousness that can move throughout the entire range, that can witness all oppositions, that can hold all paradox, that can embrace the wholeness beyond duality. Exhale, as if releasing into this more expansive identity, this sense of self that transcends all temporary positions and polarities. As sleep draws nearer with each passing moment, allow all these understandings about polarity to integrate naturally within you, requiring no effort to remember or apply. The principle of polarity offers not just philosophical insight, but practical liberation. Liberation from the belief that opposites must be in conflict. Liberation from the need to choose one truth at the expense of another. Liberation from the fear that experiencing one state makes its opposite inaccessible or impossible. Feel how your body contains its own wisdom of balance, naturally finding equilibrium, effortlessly harmonizing opposing forces. As your consciousness drifts toward dreams, consider what might shift if you carried this understanding with you into your waking hours. How might you relate differently to inner conflict if you recognized opposing desires as different expressions of the same underlying needs? How might you approach external disagreements if you could see how seemingly contradictory positions often share common values at their core? Let the air settle in your body one final time, feeling the gentle rhythm of your breathing, the natural alternation between receiving and releasing. Your breath holds both the inhale and the exhale, the expansion and the contraction, the rising and the falling, not as separate events, but as phases of a single, continuous movement. Exhale, as if surrendering to this perfect rhythm, this endless dance between complementary states. Somewhere beyond this understanding of polarity, another principle awaits your discovery, one that reveals how these opposites naturally flow into each other in an endless cycle, how no state remains fixed, how all things move in accordance with a cosmic rhythm that cannot be escaped, only understood and harmonized with. Feel how your awareness begins to sense this greater rhythm, this pendulum swing that governs all processes in nature and consciousness. Rest now in the space between polarities, not choosing one over another, but embracing the wholeness that includes both, not trapped in either extreme, but free to move throughout the entire spectrum, not limited by dualistic thinking, but liberated into the vastness beyond opposition. And as sleep draws ever closer, the fourth principle continues its gentle work, reconciling all opposites within you, preparing you for the deeper wisdom that remains to be revealed. Chapter 5. the tides within you. As you continue to drift peacefully in this space between thoughts, between moments, between breaths, a fifth wisdom approaches like distant music carried on a gentle breeze. Everything flows, everything rises, and then it falls. The moon leans close and then drifts away. The tide comes to kiss the shore, then slides back into the dark. Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling how each breath follows the ancient pattern of coming and going, a rhythm as old as the first living cell. The sages who walked the ancient paths observed the universal cadence that flows through all things. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in all things. The ebb and flow expresses in all dimensions. The rhythmic beat pulses through all existence. Feel how your body already knows this truth, the systole and diastole of your heart, the wakefulness and sleep of your consciousness, the hunger and satisfaction that move through you like tides. Rhythm isn't something you follow, it's something you are, not a rule imposed from outside, but the very pattern of your existence, the quiet law behind all movement, the silent conductor of life's symphony. Exhale, as if softening into the bed beneath you, surrendering to the rhythmic pull of gravity, the same force that draws the ocean toward shore and back again. Perhaps you've felt it before, that sense that everything moves in cycles, that nothing stays at its peak forever, that nothing remains in its valley eternally, that all things, emotions, energies, circumstances, relationships, rise and fall and rise again with a timing that often escapes your conscious understanding. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition, this remembering of a truth your body has never forgotten. As you rest here, suspended between waking and dreaming, notice how your consciousness itself ebbs and flows, how thoughts arise and dissolve, how awareness expands and contracts, how you drift towards sleep and then resurface briefly like a wave touching shore before returning to the deep. Let this moment widen around you, expanding to include both the movement and the stillness, both the rhythm and the silence from which it emerges. Rhythm is the heartbeat of the all, and you are its drum. Each pulse through your veins, each cycle of your breath, each phase of your life echoes the great cosmic heartbeat that has been sounding since before the first star was born. Feel the weight of your body settling more deeply with each passing moment, surrendering to this natural downward flow, this perfect descent into restfulness. The principle of rhythm reveals that nothing remains static, nothing persists unchanged. The seasons turn, civilizations rise and fall, emotions intensify and fade, all following the great cosmic metronome that conducts the symphony of existence. Let the air settle in your body deeply now, feeling how it fills the empty spaces within you, only to empty again, fullness and emptiness alternating in perfect harmony. Consider the breath, how it naturally moves between expansion and contraction, between receiving and releasing. There is no permanent inhale, no eternal exhale, only this continuous rhythmic exchange that sustains life itself. If the breath were to become fixed in either state, frozen at full expansion or held in empty contraction, life would cease. It is precisely the rhythm, the movement between opposites, that allows life to continue. Exhale as if participating in this ancient dance, this primal rhythm that connects you to all breathing beings throughout time. Your breath is a tide. Your emotions are its moon, rising and falling not by accident, but by natural law, not through failure or success, but through the inevitable cycles that govern all living things. Feel the breath anchor you in this perfect pulsation, this natural oscillation between receiving and releasing, this primal dance of existence. You might begin to recognize how this rhythm has been playing throughout your entire life, how periods of activity have been followed by periods of rest, how times of expansion have been balanced by times of consolidation, how moments of clarity have alternated with moments of uncertainty. Let this moment widen into deeper recognition of these patterns, these cycles that have carried you, even when you weren't aware of them. Every high tide promises a low tide. Every exhalation guarantees another inhalation. Every period of dormancy contains the seeds of new growth. Every winter is a promise of spring. Feel how your body responds to this assurance, perhaps with subtle sensations of relaxation or relief, as if a part of you has always known this truth. The ancient teachings remind us that what appears as death in any system is actually just transition, movement from one phase of a cycle to another. The tree that appears lifeless in winter is not dead but dormant, gathering resources for spring's explosion of growth. The field that lies fallow is not barren but resting, replenishing nutrients for the next planting. Exhale as if releasing any resistance to this natural cadence, any fear of the low points in life's inevitable cycles. This understanding offers profound reassurance when applied to your emotional life, for it tells you that no feeling, however intense, lasts forever, that grief, however overwhelming, moves like a tide that eventually recedes, that joy, however elusive, returns with the reliability of dawn following night, not because life is random, but because it follows patterns as ancient and reliable as the cosmos itself. Feel the breath anchor you in this emotional wisdom, this recognition that feelings flow rather than fix, that states change rather than solidify. You are not stuck. You are just in the tide's return, not permanently trapped in any state, but temporarily experiencing one phase of a continuing cycle, not broken when feelings ebb, but participating in the natural rhythm of emotional experience. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath naturally supports this understanding of impermanence, not as loss, but as renewal. Consider how even your consciousness moves in rhythmic waves throughout the day, periods of sharp focus alternating with times of diffuse awareness, moments of creative insight, followed by phases of practical application, hours of extroverted engagement, balanced by intervals of introverted reflection. Exhale as if surrendering to these natural oscillations, these cycles that need not be fought against or controlled, only recognized and respected. The masters understood that fighting against the natural rhythm creates unnecessary suffering, that wisdom lies not in denying the pendulum's swing, but in riding its arc with grace and awareness, not in clinging to any one state, but in flowing with the inevitable transitions between states. Feel how your body naturally attunes to these rhythms, your heart rate slowing as you prepare for sleep, your muscles releasing accumulated tension, your brain waves shifting toward patterns that support rest and renewal. What might life feel like if you moved with these rhythms rather than against them? If you honored the need for rest after exertion, for reflection after action, for receiving after giving, for being after doing, not as failure or weakness, but as wisdom, not as giving up, but as tuning in. Let this moment widen into contemplation of how this principle might transform your relationship with life's inevitable fluctuations. Grief is the ocean pulling back before it brings something new, not a permanent state to fear or avoid, but a necessary withdrawal that precedes the next advance. Not a sign that something is wrong, but evidence that your heart is alive, responsive, engaged with life's full spectrum. Feel the breath anchor you in this compassionate perspective, this recognition that even difficult emotions serve a purpose within the greater rhythm. As your awareness continues to soften and expand, perhaps noticing how your consciousness begins to move in gentle waves rather than rigid patterns, allow yourself to explore the liberating power of surrender. The ancient texts speak of how the wise can partially escape the effects of unwanted rhythms, not by denying their existence, but by rising to a higher plane of consciousness, like climbing above the pendulum's arc, like finding the still point at the center of the turning wheel, like discovering the silence between notes. Exhale as if releasing into the current of life, allowing yourself to be carried by rhythms older than time, patterns deeper than thought. This surrender is not passive resignation or helpless submission, not giving up or giving in, not abandoning your power or abdicating responsibility. Rather, it is active alignment, the profound recognition that fighting against natural cycles consumes energy that could be better used flowing with them. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath requires both surrender and participation, both letting go and showing up. Consider how a skilled sailor navigates the ocean, not by fighting against the wind and waves, but by understanding their patterns and adjusting the sails accordingly. Not by forcing a direct path against the current, but by tacking strategically to use even contrary forces to reach the destination. Not through domination of natural forces, but through harmonious collaboration with them. Feel the breath anchor you in this wiser relationship with life's rhythms, this dance of respect rather than resistance. You don't need to resist the fall, only remember that the rise follows. You don't need to cling to the peak, only trust that it will return. You don't need to fear the emptying, only know that filling comes next. You don't need to doubt in the darkness, Only recall that light always returns. Exhale as if releasing any anxiety about life's inevitable cycles, any fear that the current downward swing might be permanent. Perhaps you've noticed how often resistance arises when one phase naturally gives way to another. The clinging to joy when sadness approaches, the fighting against rest when the body requires it, the struggling against change when transformation beckons. What might life feel like if you moved with these rhythms rather than against them? Feel how your body responds to this possibility, perhaps with sensations of relief or release, as if a burden of unnecessary struggle were being set down. This principle offers profound reassurance during life's challenging phases, for it reminds us that difficulties are not permanent conditions, but temporary positions in an ongoing cycle. That setbacks are not final destinations, but transitional moments in a continuing journey. That what appears as failure or loss often serves as the necessary withdrawal that precedes the next advance. Let this moment widen into deeper trust in life's rhythmic intelligence, this faith in processes too vast to be controlled, but perfectly designed to be participated in. What might shift in your approach to life's challenges if you remembered that no state, however difficult, remains forever, that every winter eventually yields to spring, that the darkest night contains the promise of dawn, that even now, as you rest in this moment, countless rhythms are working together to restore, renew, and regenerate your being. Feel the breath anchor you in this perspective of patience and trust, this willingness to allow natural timing rather than forcing artificial schedules. The rhythms of your emotional life deserve particular compassion, for the modern world often expects consistent productivity, perpetual happiness, and continuous growth, expectations that run contrary to the natural cadences of human experience. Yet your emotional being, like all living systems, requires both expression and rest, both intensity and recovery, both engagement and withdrawal. Exhale as if releasing any shame about your own natural rhythms, any judgment about the ebb tides of your energy, creativity, or connection. You might find, as you surrender more deeply to this principle, that the very states you've been fighting against contain unexpected gifts, that fatigue might be protecting you from depletion, that sadness might be processing important information, that confusion might be preparing the ground for new clarity, that emptiness might be creating space for fresh inspiration. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath supports this more compassionate relationship with your own natural cycles. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness becomes increasingly fluid, more wave-like, allow yourself to discover the paradoxical stillness that exists within all movement. Like the eye of a hurricane that remains perfectly calm while surrounded by powerful winds, there exists within you a center of stillness that remains undisturbed by the rhythmic fluctuations of experience, not separate from the movement, but at its very heart, not escaping the cycles, but holding them in a wider awareness. Feel how your body contains both movement and stillness simultaneously, the constant activity of cells, organs, systems happening within an overall state of deepening rest. Consider the moon's relationship with the tides. Though physically distant, its gravitational pull orchestrates the ocean's rhythmic dance, drawing waters toward it and then releasing them in an endless cycle of approach and retreat. Yet the moon itself appears serene, unmoved by the very movements it initiates. Exhale, as if finding this moon-like perspective within yourself, this calm center that observes life's tides without being pulled under by them. The ancient philosophers knew that while we cannot stop the pendulum's swing, we can find the still point from which it hangs. While we cannot prevent the wheels turning, we can rest at its unwavering center. While we cannot silence the cosmic heartbeat, we can become aware of the silence between each pulse. Let this moment widen into awareness of that silent center, that still point, that unwavering presence that exists within all rhythmic movement. Rhythm is not the enemy of stillness. It is its expression. Cycles are not the opposite of peace. They are its language. Change is not the adversary of stability. It is its dance partner. Feel the breath anchor you in this paradoxical understanding, this recognition that true stillness is not rigid or static, but alive and vibrant. Perhaps you're beginning to sense the subtle rhythms operating in your experience right now, the alternation between focused attention and gentle drifting, between clear thoughts and dreamlike images, between conscious awareness and unconscious processing, not fighting against these natural oscillations, but riding their waves with increasing ease. Exhale, as if surrendering even more completely to these subtle rhythms, these gentle currents that carry you toward deeper rest. Consider music, how rhythm creates not chaos, but order, not confusion, but clarity, how the regular pattern of beats provides the foundation upon which melody can dance and harmony can unfold, how even moments of dissonance and syncopation derive their power and meaning from the underlying rhythmic structure. Feel how your body responds to this musical metaphor, perhaps with subtle sensations of harmony or flow, as if your entire being were participating in a symphony too vast to fully comprehend, but perfectly tuned to support your existence. What might open in your experience if you trusted the rhythm of your own unfolding? If you aligned with rather than resisted the natural cadences of your body, mind, heart, and spirit, if you surrendered to the perfect timing that governs all processes in nature and consciousness, let the air settle in your body one final time, feeling how your breathing has found its own perfect rhythm, neither forced nor restricted, simply flowing in harmony with life itself. As sleep approaches on silent feet, allow all these understandings about rhythm to integrate naturally within you, requiring no effort to remember or apply. The principle of rhythm offers not just philosophical insight, but practical comfort, for it assures us that no state, whether joyful or painful, energized or depleted, connected or isolated, lasts forever. That change is not a threat to security, but the very essence of aliveness. That impermanence is not a flaw in creation, but its fundamental nature. Exhale as if releasing any last resistance to this flowing nature of existence, any final clinging to permanence in a world designed for continuous renewal. As you drift toward dreams, consider what might shift if you carried this understanding with you into your waking hours. How might you relate differently to challenges if you recognize them as temporary positions in an ongoing cycle? How might you approach joys if you appreciated their precious impermanence? How might you experience yourself if you sensed your participation in rhythms that began long before your birth and will continue long after your departure? Feel the breath anchor you in this expanded perspective, this recognition of your place in the great cosmic dance. The cycles of the moon, the tides, the seasons all reflect the same truth that flows through your own experience, that life moves not in a straight line, but in spirals of returning and renewing, of remembering and rediscovering, of losing and finding once again. Let this moment widen into timelessness as the boundaries between your personal rhythms and universal cycles continue to dissolve. You float now in the river of rhythm, not fighting against the current, but carried by it, not struggling to control the flow, but surrendering to its perfect wisdom, not lost in the movement, but found in it. Exhale as if becoming one with this river, this flow, this eternal movement that carries all things. Somewhere beyond this rhythmic understanding, another principle awaits your discovery, one that reveals how each moment grows from the seeds planted in previous moments, how each experience emerges from prior causes, how each now contains the echo of what came before and the whisper of what comes after. Feel how your awareness begins to sense these subtle connections between moments, these invisible threads of causation that weave the fabric of experience. And as sleep draws ever closer with each breath, the fifth principle continues its gentle influence, harmonizing your entire being with the cosmic rhythm of restoration and renewal. Chapter 6: The Echo of Everything. As your consciousness continues to drift peacefully, floating in this twilight realm between waking and dreaming, a sixth wisdom emerges like a quiet revelation in the depths of night. Listen to the soft echo of your last thought, to the gentle ripple of your last movement, to the subtle reverberation of your last breath. Feel how your body settles more deeply with each exhale, creating impressions in the surface beneath you, leaving traces of warmth where skin meets fabric. The ancient philosophers perceived the endless chain of connection that links all phenomena. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Nothing escapes this law. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing exists outside this perfect order of sequence. Let the air settle in your belly now, feeling how this simple act initiates countless microscopic adjustments throughout your entire being. Nothing stands alone. Everything leaves a trail. Each word spoken continues long after sound fades. Each gesture made ripples outward beyond sight. Each choice offered flows forward through time, touching shores you may never see. Exhale, as if sending a message into the universe, knowing that this single breath participates in the atmospheric exchange that sustains all living things. Your breath itself is a perfect demonstration of this principle. The inhale causes the lungs to expand, the diaphragm to descend, the ribs to lift. The oxygen entering your bloodstream causes cells to energize, neurons to fire, thoughts to form, and the exhale causes release, relaxation, return, completing one cycle in the endless chain of cause and effect that constitutes your living experience. Feel the breath anchor you in this fundamental law, this recognition that nothing exists or occurs in isolation. As you rest here, suspended between conscious thought and dreaming mind, you might begin to sense the vast web of causation that has brought you to this exact moment. Not just the immediate causes, the decision to listen, the arrangement of your body, the quality of your attention, but the countless preceding causes stretching backward through your day, your life, beyond even your birth, into the vast ocean of existence. Let this moment widen around you, expanding to include both what has been and what will be, both the causes that have led to now and the effects that will flow from it. The thread that connects all things. This principle of causation reveals that chance is merely a term for a cause existing beyond our recognition, that coincidence is simply connection not yet understood. The universe unfolds not through random events, but through an intricate dance of causes creating effects, which become causes for further effects in infinite progression. Notice how your body responds to this understanding, perhaps with subtle sensations of recognition, perhaps with a deeper sense of belonging to the great tapestry of existence. The ancient teaching that the universe is mental works hand in hand with this principle of causation. For if all is mind, and if thoughts are causes, then what manifests in your experience grows naturally from the seeds planted in consciousness, not instantly like magic, but gradually and inevitably, like how water shapes stone not through force, but through patient persistence. Let the air settle in your body deeply now, feeling how each breath continues to cause subtle shifts in your physical, emotional, and mental states. Your words echo longer than your voice. The tone with which you speak to others and to yourself continues to resonate long after the sound waves dissipate, creating effects in nervous systems, in emotional bodies, in the subtle architecture of relationship. Exhale, as if releasing any unawareness of your creative power, any forgetfulness of your role in shaping what unfolds. Consider how your current circumstances, your relationships, your health, your work, your home reflect the accumulated effects of countless causes you've initiated or participated in, not as punishment or reward, but as natural consequence, not as judgment passed by some external authority, but as the organic unfolding of seeds planted through choice, habit, intent, and action. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition of continuity, this understanding that life is not a series of disconnected events, but a flowing stream of cause becoming effect, becoming cause. The concept of karma, often misunderstood as cosmic punishment, is simply this principle expressed across the dimension of time, not a ledger of debits and credits, but the natural continuity of energy and pattern, not a burden of judgment, but a gift of meaningful connection between what you do and what you experience. Not a sentence imposed from outside, but the story you write with each choice, each word, each action. Let this moment widen into deeper appreciation for the meaningful nature of existence, where nothing is random and nothing is wasted. The world listens, even when you whisper. The universe responds, even to your quietest intention. Reality registers, even your most private choice, not through surveillance or judgment, but through the seamless continuity of cause and effect. Feel how your body contains its own wisdom of causation, naturally addressing imbalance, organically restoring harmony, instinctively moving toward wholeness. You might begin to sense how this principle has been operating throughout your entire life, how certain choices led to particular experiences, how specific thoughts created distinct emotions, how various actions attracted their corresponding reactions, not as punishment or reward, but as natural consequence, as inevitable echo, as perfect reflection. Exhale, as if releasing any resistance to this fundamental law, any wish that some actions might not have consequences, or that some effects might not have causes. The masters knew that true freedom existed not in escaping the law of cause and effect, but in becoming conscious of one's role within it. For while we cannot always control the causes that enter our lives from the outside, we remain forever the authors of our responses, the creators of our next causes, the shapers of our future effects. Feel the breath anchor you in this present moment, this powerful point of creation, this nexus where past effects meet future causes. A drop in still water creates waves across unseen shores. A single act of kindness reverberates beyond your knowing. A moment of presence alters the field of possibilities. A choice made from love sends ripples through the fabric of reality itself. Let the air settle in your body now as these understandings settle in your awareness. This principle offers neither burden nor escape, but simply clear seeing. It reveals that you are neither all-powerful nor powerless, neither the sole creator of your circumstances nor their helpless victim. Rather, you are a conscious participant in the great dance of causation, responding to what comes to you from the vast field of prior causes, while simultaneously initiating new causes through your conscious choices. Exhale, as if finding the perfect balance between acceptance and agency, between responding to what is and creating what might be. As you continue to drift deeper into relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness becomes more receptive, more fluid, allow yourself to explore the subtle dimensions of your causal influence. You are the gardener, and the fruit grows in ways you may never see. Not all seeds sprout immediately. Not all effects become visible quickly. Not all consequences reveal themselves directly, yet the connection remains unbroken. Feel how your body continues its own invisible processes of cause and effect, cells repairing, systems regulating, energy distributing without your conscious direction. Consider the subtler causes you initiate each day, the quality of your attention, the nature of your presence, the frequency of your thoughts, the intention behind your actions. These may not create dramatic, immediate effects like stones thrown into water, but rather function like gentle rain soaking into soil, gradually, cumulatively transforming the landscape of your experience over time. Let this moment widen into appreciation for these subtle influences, these quiet causes that shape life as powerfully as dramatic ones. The cause may be hidden, but the effect is real. The connection may be invisible, but it remains unbroken. The relationship may be complex, but it follows perfect law. Exhale as if releasing any need for immediate evidence or validation of your positive intentions, trusting in the inevitable manifestation of their effects in the fullness of time. Life is not linear, it's fractal. Your smallest acts matter not because they create huge direct effects, but because they participate in patterns that repeat and magnify across scales of experience. The patience you show in one moment influences your capacity for patience in larger challenges. The kindness you offer in a brief interaction strengthens the field of kindness in your broader community. The integrity you maintain in private decisions builds the foundation for integrity in public actions. Feel the breath anchor you in this fractal understanding, this recognition of how patterns at one level influence patterns at all levels. Perhaps you're becoming aware of how this principle offers profound meaning and dignity to even the smallest acts, how nothing is truly insignificant when understood as part of the unbroken chain of causation, how no gesture of compassion, no moment of presence, no choice aligned with your deepest values is ever wasted, even when its effects remain invisible to you. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath participates in the exchange of elements that has continued unbroken since the first living cell. The unseen good is still good. The unwitnessed kindness still matters. The private choice still shapes the world, not because someone is keeping score, but because reality itself is woven from the threads of cause and effect. Exhale as if releasing any doubt about the significance of your presence in the world, any question about whether your existence makes a difference. What might shift in your approach to daily life if you remembered your creative power within this principle, that each thought plants a seed, each word casts a ripple, each action begins a sequence that extends beyond what you can see, that even now, as you rest in perfect stillness, you are generating causes that will manifest in your tomorrow. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition of your continuous creative participation in the unfolding of reality. Consider how this understanding might transform your relationship with seemingly random or meaningless experiences. If every effect has its cause, then nothing that happens is truly accidental or purposeless, not in the sense of rigid predetermination, but in the sense of meaningful connection, each experience growing organically from what preceded it, each moment containing the seeds of what will follow. Let this moment widen into trust in the fundamental meaningfulness of existence, the profound coherence beneath apparent chaos, releasing control, retaining power. As your consciousness continues to soften and expand, drifting between thoughts like clouds in a vast sky, allow yourself to explore the delicate balance between agency and surrender within this principle. You are not the puppet or the puppet master. You are the rhythm between their hands, neither completely controlled nor completely in control, neither absolutely determined nor absolutely free, but consciously participating in the dance of cause and effect, responding with wisdom to what comes, initiating with care what goes forth. Feel how your body contains this perfect balance, responding intelligently to countless stimuli while simultaneously generating its own actions and influences. In the practice of mental alchemy, this principle reveals that we are not merely passive recipients of life's circumstances, but active participants in their creation, not victims of immutable fate, but co-authors of an unfolding story, not helpless observers, but powerful creators expressing choice in each moment. Exhale as if releasing any sense of victimhood or powerlessness, any belief that you are merely subject to external forces beyond your influence. The ancient alchemists understood that mastery of this principle comes not through attempting to control all causes and effects in the universe, an impossible task given their infinite complexity and scope. Rather, it comes through conscious attention to those causes within your sphere of influence, particularly the inner causes that you alone can shape: your perceptions, interpretations, responses, intentions, and choices. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how this principle offers liberation through precise focus rather than impossible control. Like a gardener who cannot command the weather but can still prepare the soil, select the seeds, and tend the growing plants with wisdom and care, you need not control all circumstances to powerfully shape your experience. By attending mindfully to the causes you can influence, you participate consciously in creating the effects you wish to experience. Feel the breath anchor you in this focused approach to causation, this recognition of both your limits and your power. Consider how this balanced understanding might transform your relationship with difficult circumstances, not by pretending you can control everything that happens to you, but by recognizing your power to control how you respond to what happens, not by denying the reality of external causes that affect your life, but by focusing on the internal causes that determine how those external factors impact your experience. Exhale as if releasing any struggle against what cannot be changed, while simultaneously embracing your power to influence what can. This principle soothes anxiety not by promising perfect control, but by revealing perfect order, not by suggesting you can manipulate all outcomes, but by showing that all outcomes follow comprehensible patterns, not by placing the burden of universal causation on your shoulders, but by inviting you to participate consciously in the causes within your reach. Feel how your body responds to this balanced perspective, perhaps with sensations of relief or release, as if a burden of impossible responsibility were being lifted while a mantle of meaningful agency is being accepted. What might open in your experience if you focused less on controlling results and more on purifying intentions, if you worried less about managing all external circumstances and more about maintaining internal alignment with your deepest values, if you shifted from demanding particular outcomes to offering your best contribution and trusting the unfolding process. Let this moment widen into exploration of this more balanced relationship with causation, this dance of influence without attachment, of agency without control. As sleep draws closer with each breath, allow all these understandings about cause and effect to integrate naturally within you, requiring no effort to remember or apply. The principle of causation offers not just philosophical insight, but practical guidance for navigating your human journey. For it reminds you that while you cannot control all causes that enter your experience, you remain forever the author of your responses. While you cannot determine every circumstance you encounter, you always shape what those circumstances mean and how they affect your development. Exhale, as if releasing into complete trust in the perfect order underlying all experience, the meaningful connection between all events, the profound coherence of existence itself. As your consciousness drifts toward dreams, consider what might shift if you carried this understanding with you into your waking hours. How might you relate differently to challenges if you recognized them not as random misfortunes, but as effects of prior causes and potential causes of future growth? How might you approach relationships if you sensed the causal power of every word, every gesture, every quality of attention you offer? Feel the breath anchor you in this causal awareness, this recognition of your continuous creative participation in the unfolding of reality. Your breath, this simple, automatic rhythm that continues even in sleep, remains the most immediate cause that you influence. Each conscious breath you take sends ripples through your nervous system, your emotional state, your biochemistry, your energy field. Each intentional exhalation releases what no longer serves, making space for new possibilities to enter. Let the air settle in your body one final time, feeling how this fundamental act of breathing connects you to the great causal dance of existence. This principle reminds us that every effect in our lives contains the seed of its cause, and every cause we initiate contains the promise of its effect. That our present moment exists is the perfect culmination of all that has come before and the perfect foundation for all that will follow. Exhale, as if surrendering to this perfect order, this meaningful continuity, this profound coherence that underlies all experience. Nothing you do is wasted. Nothing you are is insignificant. No choice you make disappears without trace. You matter, not because you control everything, but because you influence something. Not because you determine all outcomes, but because you participate in their unfolding. Feel how your awareness begins to sense the generative dance between masculine and feminine principles, between active and receptive energies, between giving and receiving aspects of existence. Somewhere beyond this causal understanding, one final principle awaits your discovery. But for now, rest in this awareness of perfect order, of meaningful connection, of the profound simplicity that exists at the heart of life's apparent complexity. And as sleep approaches ever closer, the sixth principle continues its gentle work, weaving your consciousness into the perfect sequence of restoration that unfolds throughout the night. Chapter 7. The two that were always one. As you float now in this profound space of receptivity, where consciousness blends with dream, where wisdom merges with intuition. The seventh and final principle emerges like a whispered secret from the universe itself. There is a silence that waits to be filled, and there is a sound that longs to be heard. Both live in you. Feel how your body contains these perfect balances, the giving and receiving, the expansion and contraction, the doing and being that exist within your very nature. The most ancient of teachings recognized the dual forces that create all manifestation. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles, not as division or opposition, but as the primary partnership that gives birth to all creation, not as conflict, but as completion, not as separation, but as the sacred marriage that makes wholeness possible. Let the air settle in the vessel of your body, feeling the receptive quality of taking in and the active quality of transformation that follows. The moon listens, the sun speaks. You are both. One reflects, one projects, one receives, one initiates, one nurtures what is, one calls forth what might be. Neither complete without the other, neither possible without the mutual embrace. Exhale as if releasing any artificial separation between these forces, any sense that they must compete rather than complement. This final principle reveals the fundamental duality that exists not as a division to overcome, but as a dynamic to celebrate. For in this duality lies the very secret of creation itself, the eternally generative dance between giving and receiving, between expressing and witnessing, between shaping and allowing. Feel the breath anchor you in this dance, this rhythm of complementary forces, this perfect balance of polarities within your own being. Your breath itself embodies this principle. The inhale receives, allows, accepts what is given. The exhale expresses, releases, offers what has been transformed. Neither superior to the other, neither possible without the other, both essential to the continuous miracle of living. Let this moment widen around you as your awareness expands to include both the active and receptive dimensions of your own consciousness, masculine and feminine. Within this principle of gender reveals that creation requires both forces working in harmony. The masculine provides direction, initiation, and outward expression, while the feminine offers reception, nurturing, and inward cultivation, not as separate entities, but as complementary aspects of the same unified whole. Notice how your body naturally balances these qualities, the structure of bone and the softness of tissue, the direction of intention and the receptivity of sensation. The ancients understood these principles not primarily as expressions of biological sex or social roles, but as fundamental cosmic energies that manifest on every plane of existence, from the most physical to the most spiritual, energies that exist within each being, each process, each creative act, regardless of form or identity. Exhale, as if releasing any limiting associations with these terms, any cultural overlays that might obscure their deeper significance. The seed carries the dream. The soil holds the secret. One contains the blueprint, the potential, the directive. The other provides the field, the nourishment, the context, both participate equally in the miracle of growth, in the mystery of becoming, in the continuous creation of life. Feel how your body responds to these complementary energies, perhaps sensing their dance within your own experience, their continuous interplay in your own consciousness. Consider how these principles express through human qualities and capacities. The masculine tends toward doing, asserting, structuring, analyzing, and defining. The feminine tends toward being, receiving, flowing, intuiting, and connecting, not as rigid categories that divide, but as complementary energies that create wholeness when in balance. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath contains both surrender and intention, both receptivity and expression. You might begin to sense how these dual energies have always been working through your life, the times of outward action and accomplishment, balanced by periods of inner reflection and insight, the moments of speaking your truth into the world, complemented by times of listening deeply to what life is speaking to you. Feel the breath anchor you in this recognition, this remembering of your own multidimensional nature. Masculine builds, feminine breathes. Together, they become creation. The tower reaches skyward because the earth holds it steady. The river flows freely because the banks give it direction. The melody soars because silence gives it space. The word carries meaning because listening gives it purpose. Exhale as if honoring both forces within you, both capacities that make you whole. Perhaps you're becoming aware of where these energies currently express in your life, areas where your masculine principle leads through vision, direction, and structure, places where your feminine principle nurtures through presence, intuition, and receptivity. Neither to be judged as better or worse, neither to be elevated above the other, only to be recognized as essential aspects of your complete self. Let this moment widen into deeper self-acceptance, into recognition of your innate wholeness that includes all complementary qualities. You are the fire and the vessel, both the flame that transforms and the container that holds, both the energy that moves and the space that allows movement, both the word that creates and the silence from which it emerges. Feel how your body contains all these complementary aspects, how your being encompasses all these seemingly opposite qualities. The ancient alchemists symbolized this principle in many ways, as sun and moon, as king and queen, as sulfur and mercury, always depicting not opposition but union, not conflict but communion, not competition but collaboration, for they understood that the great work, the transformation of consciousness itself, required the harmonious marriage of these complementary forces. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how your masculine and feminine aspects naturally seek balance, harmony, and mutual expression. Integration, not elimination. As your awareness continues to soften and expand, drifting deeper into this space of receptivity, allow yourself to explore the power of integration that this principle offers. The masters knew that wholeness comes not from emphasizing one energy over the other, but from honoring both in their perfect timing and expression. That wisdom arises from neither action alone nor reflection alone, but from their sacred interplay. That magic happens at the meeting point between intention and surrender, between structure and spontaneity, between will and acceptance. Exhale as if releasing any imbalance between these forces, any resistance to either receptivity or expression, any separation between being and doing. Consider what happens when these principles fall out of balance, when masculine energy dominates without feminine counterpart. Life becomes all doing with no being, all structure with no flow, all definition with no mystery. When feminine energy operates without masculine partnership, life becomes all potential with no actualization, all possibility with no focus, all connection with no direction. Feel the breath anchor you in the middle path, the balance point where both energies find their perfect expression in harmony with each other. There is no light without the dark to give it shape, no music without silence between the notes, no meaning without space around the words, no growth without both seed and soil, spark and fuel, vision and nurture. Let this moment widen into recognition of how these complementary forces create wholeness through their dynamic interplay. You might begin to notice areas in your life that call for greater balance, perhaps places where more receptivity would complement your natural tendency toward action, or spaces where more direction would give form to your natural capacity for openness, not as correction or criticism, but as invitation toward greater harmony and effectiveness. Exhale, as if allowing these natural adjustments to occur, these subtle shifts toward greater balance and integration. The feminine creates space, the masculine gives shape. The feminine provides the field, the masculine focuses the energy. The feminine opens the heart, the masculine directs its love. The feminine deepens experience, the masculine extends its reach. Neither superior, both sacred, neither optional, both essential. Feel how your body naturally seeks this balance, this integration of complementary qualities, this wholeness that transcends artificial division. The physical universe itself demonstrates this principle in its fundamental forces, the expansive force that drives the universe outward, balanced by the gravitational force that draws it together, the particle nature of matter complemented by the wave nature of energy, the stability of structure in continuous dance with the dynamism of change. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath participates in this cosmic balance between expansion and contraction, between receiving and releasing. What might open in your experience if you welcomed all aspects of yourself with equal value and respect? If you honored both your capacity for logical analysis and your gift of intuitive knowing? If you embraced both your ability to take action and your wisdom in allowing things to unfold? If you recognized that power comes in more than one form, the power to make happen and the power to let happen? Feel the breath anchor you in this more complete self-recognition, this more integrated self-acceptance. Cosmic union. As you drift deeper into this state of profound relaxation, perhaps noticing how your awareness becomes increasingly receptive and expansive, allow yourself to explore the cosmic dimension of this principle. In the mystery traditions across cultures and throughout history, this principle represents the divine synthesis, the sacred marriage that perpetually creates and renews the universe. Not abstract philosophy, but living reality. Not distant cosmology, but immediate experience available in each conscious moment. Exhale, as if surrendering to this greater wisdom, this deeper understanding that transcends ordinary thinking. The ancient texts speak of this principle as the key to all mysteries, for in the union of opposites, all paradoxes resolve. In the marriage of complementary forces, all creation becomes possible. In the harmony of masculine and feminine energies, the alchemical transformation of consciousness itself occurs. Feel how your body already knows this truth, this natural wisdom of integration, this innate understanding of complementary wholeness. You are neither solely masculine nor solely feminine, neither purely active nor purely receptive, neither just form nor just essence. You are the living embodiment of their dance, their dialogue, their eternal embrace. Let this moment widen into direct experience of this union, this integration, this harmony within your own being. Perhaps you're beginning to sense how the entire journey through these 7 principles has been leading to this final understanding. How mentalism established the foundation of mind. Correspondence revealed the connections between dimensions. Vibration showed the nature of energy. Polarity presented the spectrum of opposites. Rhythm demonstrated the flow of cycles. Causation illuminated the chain of creation, all culminating in this principle of gender that shows how the great creative process actually works. Feel the breath anchor you in this culmination, this completion, this integration of all that has come before. The union of these complementary forces is not merely philosophical or symbolic. It is the actual mechanism through which all creation occurs, from the formation of atoms to the birth of stars, from the development of life to the evolution of consciousness, from the genesis of thought to the manifestation of reality. All arise from the dynamic interplay of masculine and feminine principles. Exhale as if participating consciously in this creative process, this eternal dance of complementary energies. In this principle lies the secret of mental alchemy, the understanding that transformation occurs not through force or control, but through the harmonious union of complementary aspects of consciousness. The active mind directing attention, while the receptive mind opens to insight. The structured intellect providing form, while the flowing intuition offers content. The focused will setting intention, while the surrendered heart allows manifestation. Let the air settle in your body now, feeling how each breath embodies this perfect balance between doing and being, between directing and allowing. As sleep approaches with gathering momentum, just consider what might shift if you carried this understanding with you into your waking hours. How might you relate differently to challenges if you engaged them with both active problem solving and receptive listening? How might your relationships transform if you brought both clear expression and deep presence? How might your creative work flourish if you balance structured discipline with open exploration? Feel how your body responds to this possibility of greater integration, perhaps with subtle sensations of alignment, harmony, or wholeness. As you drift toward the threshold of sleep, allow this final principle to integrate naturally within you, requiring no effort to understand or remember. This principle of gender completes the sacred circle of Hermetic wisdom, not as the end of a linear journey, but as the return to wholeness that contains all principles within it. For in the sacred marriage of masculine and feminine, we find not just the mechanism of creation, but the nature of the Creator itself, the all in its dynamic, generative wholeness. Exhale, as if surrendering completely to this perfect balance, this dynamic harmony that exists at the heart of all things, including you. As your consciousness continues its journey into dreams, know that these complementary energies work even in sleep, the active mind creating dream narratives, while the receptive mind opens to deeper wisdom, the structured brain organizing experiences, while the flowing unconscious reveals hidden connections, the focused self maintaining identity, while the boundless self explores beyond ordinary limitations. Feel the breath anchor you in this continuous creative process, this ongoing dance that never ceases. Even in deepest sleep, the journey of mental alchemy doesn't end as you drift toward sleep. It merely continues in different form, for the unconscious mind is the fertile soil where seeds of transformation take root, where new patterns are established, where profound integration occurs beyond the reach of waking awareness. Let this moment widen into complete trust, complete surrender to the perfect wisdom that orchestrates all processes of growth and renewal. As the 7 principles complete their whispered revelations, notice how they form not separate teachings, but a unified understanding. How mentalism creates the field of consciousness, correspondence connects all levels of being, vibration establishes the nature of energy, polarity reveals the spectrum of experience, rhythm governs the flow of change, causation structures the sequence of events, and gender enables the process of creation itself. And as consciousness surrenders completely to the embrace of sleep, know that you remain held in the perfect balance of all principles, the perfect harmony of all forces, the perfect wisdom of all understanding. Hypnotic outro, the return to the all, and now, as sleep approaches, like a gentle mist rising from the valley of consciousness, allow all these understandings to settle not as concepts to be remembered, but as wisdom to be absorbed, as truth to be embodied, as reality to be lived. You felt the mind, the vast field of consciousness, where all things have their beginning. You felt the mirror, the perfect correspondence between inner and outer dimensions. You felt the motion, the continuous vibration that animates all existence. You felt the contrast, the spectrum of polarities, that creates meaning through relationship. You felt the tides, the eternal rhythm that moves all things through cycles of becoming. You felt the ripple, the chain of causation that connects all moments in meaningful sequence. You felt the union, the sacred marriage of complementary forces that generates all creation. Let these feelings settle into your bones, into your tissues, into your very cells, requiring no mental effort to preserve or protect them. Dissolution of form. The ancient philosophers knew that true knowing comes not through intellectual grasping, but through direct experience, not through memorizing principles, but through becoming them, not through studying reality, but through recognizing yourself as its expression. Feel the weight of your body becoming heavier now, as if sinking deeper into the earth itself, as if returning to the source of all being. These teachings need not be held, for they are already written in the rhythm of your breath, in the beating of your heart, in the very pattern of your existence. You don't need to remember. The knowing is in your bones. The wisdom is in your blood. The truth is in your cells. Let the air move through you now in perfect rhythm, each breath a reminder of your participation in the great mystery of existence. Words begin to dissolve now. Concepts start to fade. Distinctions slowly blur as consciousness softens into something more primary, more essential, more real than any description. Exhale as if releasing all effort to understand or remember, all striving to grasp or maintain, all need to categorize or define. The 7 principles merge into one awareness. The many become the singular. The complexity yields to simplicity as your consciousness returns to its original nature, to its primordial state, to its essential being. Feel the breath anchor you in this returning, this remembering, this recognition of what has always been. Your limbs grow heavier now. Your eyelids settle more deeply. Your breath finds its perfect rhythm. Your awareness softens its boundaries. Your thoughts lose their edges. Let this moment widen into pure presence, pure being, pure acceptance of whatever is and whatever comes. If thoughts arise, let them. If sensations appear, let them. If dreams begin to form, let them. For all are welcome guests in the vastness of your awareness. All are natural expressions of the principles we've explored. All are perfect in their momentary appearance and inevitable dissolution. Exhale as if releasing into complete trust, complete acceptance, complete peace with whatever is and whatever comes. Let what's left of you be held. Let the all carry the rest. Let sleep deliver you to that borderless country where wisdom whispers directly to the heart, where healing happens without effort, where renewal occurs by natural law. Feel yourself anchored now in perfect trust, perfect safety, perfect belonging within the great tapestry of existence. And if you should wake in the night, simply return to the gentle rhythm of your breathing. If thoughts should capture your attention, simply observe them with kind awareness. If sleep should seem distant at times, simply rest in the peaceful knowing that rest itself is a form of renewal. Allow this moment to widen into eternity as boundaries dissolve, as definitions fade, as separation yields to union. Infinite looping thought, the principles we've explored remain eternally available to you, accessible through the doorway of present awareness, applicable to every circumstance you encounter, not as concepts separate from life, but as the very structure of existence itself, the very nature of reality in which you participate. And as consciousness surrenders completely to the embrace of sleep, a final understanding emerges like a gentle whisper in the darkness. If all is mind, and you are part of it, then perhaps this entire journey was not about learning anything new, but remembering what you've always been. Not about acquiring wisdom from outside, but recognizing the knowing that lives within. Not about becoming something different, but returning to your original nature. Not about reaching for distant truth, but awakening to what is already here. If the mind drifts again, let it. If the thoughts return, let them soften. If awareness fluctuates, let it flow. For sleep is not the absence of consciousness, but its transformation. Not an ending, but a continuation. Not a loss, but a different kind of presence. Sleep now, rest deeply, dream wisely, transform effortlessly. For in this surrender, the greatest alchemy occurs. In this letting go, the most profound wisdom emerges. In this perfect trust, the eternal principles continue their gentle work of transformation. And as these words fade into silence, may your consciousness fade into the perfect restoration of deep and peaceful sleep